Na so, ta yak
Back here,
pochas.
back here.
Ah, ta yak pochason. La so tani ka chang sa wa zia da nambi nani yo. So sa drib jang tab shibu chire tan dan dan di gyasi jwa la ga chang sa wi kor tal chang man ra chang se tong man choba po atri ta. Choba tong choba po atla choba po tong man ra sam shi jandu.
So, as mentioned, the first of these seven branches is the branch of making offerings. And here Shantideva describes three types of offerings one can make.
Zu ta ta ke chang sai gui gyamsen ra da kar yang song yong di cho pia chang sa kya cho ba pia ge gyamsen ra da kar re zi di ke chang chop ke se rum bo che to zong ra cha yu che ta ta song ye ta chang chop se pa la so pa la cha tan se ge yin la wo re chang chop ke sem ge che to
Sangitang Janshi Senpai.
cho ba pi ge ye lo
So here making offerings is for the sake of, to assist us basically in developing the spirit of enlightenment. And here we're making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
o chang chop sem ta nga so nga ra wo chi ri na chang chop se ma ke wa chi ri de chang sa wa la so pa ta chang chop se ma ke wa ke bi che re ta chang chop se pa ta so ina chang chop se pon ni kon de pe bi che te yo cho ba pia tre ta cho ba pi ge yo re ra
The Chupapur
choba pia guban ro to
So in here, so people like us who haven't given rise to the bodhicitta yet, making offerings is for the sake of being able to develop to eventually give rise to the spirit of enlightenment, and bodhisattvas when they make offerings is for the sake of increasing the bodhicitta more and more.
la so tni na chu na lun choba phusa ge yer tan choba phusa ta sa ja ko re ziti sang ge tan chang chu se pa la so pan ro wi ton chen ke ge ta ngel pep cha ni ge ke tam ba chang ma lun choba phisa ge yer ta tan ji ja ka yo re choba ya phisa ta sang ge tan chang chu se pa la so pa ta ke tam ba ta sul
Yeah, so all these superior beings of bodhisattvas and Buddhas, those are the ones who are making these offerings towards.
la so ni na lun choba pia ge zen de chi yam bo ra chi go ra bo wa ta tan da ge si chen bo ja la ge man ra wa sam shen du
And the things that Shantideva describes that we can make an offering of three types.
tombo de kar ziti da po ma zo wi ze ze ya tre
First are the things that we don't own ourselves.
Dabu mazon wi ze ze kar ze go ze ma nga so ram chong gun jik tin kam gun zidik ta sore mer der chi kun ngi yen ze ya chi me pa tin chi le dabu mazon wi ze ze la ore
Nigerki.
mi ger chi ke dabu ma ing en ri gond chi mi ger chi ke si dabu zon yo mara
Yeah. So these things that we don't own or don't possess are the things, like in our outer environment, like beautiful things, nature, mountains and other things.
ta din ole ke kar jasi chi mo jawala kar sha yor ze ti me to ko chi nje po go ni mangan ra man ra cha sa ma ani naksal jon shang la so pa a nyo ma jin me to tan je pa tan mench ro
Choktang.
me so ta je je tu je je tu ran chong kam le ke jan ni me to nje bu men sa
Hello. Oh yeah. So here it's looking at the second verse. Shantideva mentions, that we can offer flowers, fruits, all kinds of medicine.
ani cha sa ma ta ani jumbo che ri ta naksal ze na ha ko ndo
Yeah.
naksal tani jon shang la so pata tani ma cha ma la mo go dor na ran chong kam gun zit so karan thon se kar ri se ti
Yeah, so we can make offerings of all sorts of beautiful things that we see in our outer environment. And here also, as mentioned, clean, refreshing waters, jewels, and he says, gem-encrusted mountains, forest groves, and joyful places.
te ma chen di wol ma hair kan zit ta so ya mo bo shen na so hair ze ya chu re ti non len zit dam bi jang kam ta so ke po ya ti so
And then also he mentions heavenly trees. Yes, I mean, heavenly places.
tan dor din nga so nam ge regard the soul and drovi cable, so Sachaki ponton, Jimbo Meton ponton, and the current one at the soul yam church chocoyore.
Yeah, we can offer anything, beautiful we can see when we are out on a walk outside in the mountains, flowers and whatnot.
Last Tata Sotan Berki Zetri, Tamburvi Capsa, Bersat Sanjit and Chancho Sepa Yimba, Las Opakeo Tamba Zoyimba Mazi, Tatso, Mombo Shuchit. Manamka Karmasha now Jingama Sanji Chancho Sepa, Mombochi Yopa Sablo Tangori, Yambukas.
And when we actually make these, offerings, mentally offer these things, then we can also at the same time imagine, countless of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to whom we make these offerings.
Watati Yambu Kablian, Tatso, Chanda Yambag, Berke, and Soso Mombochi Yopachi, Somali and Churzi Tatsoya, Bertoya, and Disablo Tangori, Chobamba. Soso ya mambo chi uchi yuki sanji mambo yo panaje soso lian mambo chi saulo tani tama li amberto achi.
And likewise, as in the same way as we imagine countless of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, likewise we can imagine ourselves in countless forms making these offerings.
Ani tanji choba de ampoyon di tati ngamatal tocho tel topa se ando chi le Gehse chimbo jawala karason ngatsolon de pecho chimbore takyo sanji tan jancho se pat tsolon choba piyo nas. Social Chalata Mupini, Jean Jonkangu Chalat Pidini Karcherians in each other Chavares. So which Alachacampi Mare, you can ranch take Karcherians each other Chamare.
But there might be, the question might come up why is it that we, offer these things that we don't possess, but, imagine these things in the outer environment that we offer.
Lasso, take Gehse Chimuja Carzina Kongaro, Kyangamato, Sonam Gotota, Gimbata, Soyapo Machon, Alteninga, Tendel, Panjors, the Attic, Nangarolumberia, Chalachi Chimandus, Shakame Sontange, Ranchonkamgu, Zeta Solangaro, and Chosi number Samniti, Cholia, Conchos on the Pians.
Okay, so there was a question then apparently addressed to Shantideva, and then he, as a reason, he said, well, I'm a poor person, I don't have really anything, I don't possess much, or anything at all, and so that's why I offer these outer things.
Lasote, that's all Pidena Chow Pengre, that's all Sanjeta Chanch Sepat Sol Pina Pentocoresin, the Pentocoyores, the Carzeti, not so Logan on the Hasa Nandaka Conchosamlia, Sanjeta Chanch Sepat Sol and Chopa Pitona Taran, Chopa Chakare Mato, Chopi Zet, the Pacho, Sanjeta Chanch Sepat Sol Pento, Che Go Maris, Pentogo Yomari.
Yeah, so, and then also Shantideva says that it's very meritorious. The Sonam it is very beneficial and meritorious to imagine these things and offer those.
Not so. Pena Manyam Chonchil Ropache Gune Zendo, which Chairman Pangondo, that can really Ropache Gune Zendo, which Chairman Itara, Sem Gusambata Pass and Wichetan Gavata Yukirita, partial Pentocomari, Sanjeta Johnson Sepata Sutenjamar, Kosolichi Pentogomar, not so the same gets so much as on Chopangoni to take hand over it.
Yeah, so they don't really have any benefit, the three jewels, Buddha, Dhammas, or the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, if you make actual offerings to them. They don't really are not going, to actually use those things. But it's and anyway, making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas is not for their benefit. In reality, it's for our own sake, right? To accumulate merit. But if we now practice generosity with, say, people we want to give a donation towards, or we want to make an offering or present or give something to beggar another poor person, then it's they benefit from actually giving them something material. They benefit from that. It's not good enough to just mentally imagine giving something to the poor.
Pigorita, Nisangita Chancho Sepat Solia Pigorita, Tamatel Sangita Chancho Sepat Soto Chu Marian, Yomama Matejana Mato, Kosolugo Yomare, Sono Savichetere Mato.
Also, we can think of these sok pujas, that are being done, and then people donate, their generosity to the three jewels. But it's it's a means for them for us to accumulate merit, and the three jewels won't make any use of these offerings. At the end of the day, they will be then again distributed to the people.
Nalo Samlo Injecte Yargi Town Chetera Chuziad. Did some of Pochas on a Pasha Zeta so round John de Tangazo and Chobata so Pide with the Piachakan Yomara. In a sim that some Shuchi Chesonza. Te taran record in Jiki Carrezina, choose the non symptom as I chetres.
So anyway, yeah, it's not crucial to really offer something materially, something in material form to the three jewels or to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's what is crucial is our attitude. And it's and it's also I mean, it also means to transform our minds towards the positive.
What did you go Chopa double Mazon Zimbers Zet and Chopa Tombo Tetare, and Chopa Nipa the Carambo, the Taku Geshe Corungulinga or something, Sanjeta Chancha Sepaliambo is in Chopa Nipa Tere.
And the second type of offering that Shantideva speaks about is an offering of one's body, speech, and mind.
Tati linga yasun soso linga yasun the Persiana Takinajari Sanji Tachacha Sepat Solanazo Jamba Guayo Mari, Soso Bertsani Zonte, Nazo Karche Gorizina, Soso Yantana Nazon Regina Nat Sanji Tachacha Sepalambu in some Karche Gozin, Tinizonte, Sambo Samboche Gore. Yasijola Coron Busara, Tangaroina, Soso Linga is Sanji Lumbuna, Sanji Jamba, Sanji Tachacha Sepechoma, Soso Tinizonte, Samba Yapoche Gore.
Again, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas won't, have any, how can I say, they won't benefit from our offering of our body, speech, and mind, but it's again for our own sake, for our own, transformation of the mind.
So ya pua the Tinizonte, Pena, Matsolo Pamandichina. Ngaso pama poreta pama ngaso samba ya poche triche dena pama ta sonin jogrete na ngaso sangi le pisati sangi putu na chan jogrete ni zonte ngaso samba ya poche sangi lapchani tanda chancho ko semda nyanje tam chamse la so palam ba sochi control tan tanda do chatam chatam la so pam ma me pazo tandi che to sona tani sangi tunya chobangoni ta chan jogre.
It's like, with the same as with parents who are very delighted, if the children do well in certain things. And so likewise, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will be pleased with us if we are making these offerings in a sense, and then transform our minds, work with our afflictions, try to eliminate those, and develop good qualities such as loving kindness, compassion, and so forth. So they will be very pleased. Also took niveau chagwa.
To what tar. No, the Taran, what any, don't chopa any battery, don't chopa some battle, chopa number Chinese Shandu, tell Yistrican Lulong in chopa, Lutri in chopa, Sturby chop, Yistrican chopa, Terindo.
And so the last type of offering or the third type of offering that Shantideva mentions is the mentally created offerings.
Also, none of you got on one in Chopa Punichin and then Chopa the Buddha, Lila Wondro, Sonam and Torcham was Sakare, got his Soso, Semnal Yapocase, Jenatea, Sam Lotani, Sanji, Lubu, Sami, Saulo Tatan, and Tinjukure. Soso with Semganor, Karen Chozichi Chendina Yapidin. So, yeah, mentally created offerings are basically anything we wish to offer. We can imagine anything really and make, those offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Tan Gehse Chembo Java Lau Karupio Residi, Chukang Gachu, Navzagani Tombo Chukandere, Chukang Zeting also Sanjeta Chancho Sepata, so Chudia Sagan Kamba, Chuki Kamba.
So in Shantideva here, he speaks of pools or bathing chambers that he offers.
Tani Navzare and Navzare the glow.
Yeah, like clothes or ropes.
Genchata
jewels. Like ointments.
Metal.
Flowers.
Poo.
Incense.
Tani Jersey Zaya Kala.
Food, types of food.
Ani Nasar in Chorme.
Yeah, light offerings.
Any Tanda Jelme Kanzi di Puchan, Shuksak.
Palaces.
Ani du Gal Puya du.
Umbrellas.
Jormo.
Sounds with music.
Tela Sopa Tang Soso Simni and Churze the Yeton Karza Chena. The Gender Gimacha Payambu at the Sheriore.
Yeah, so he speaks about, that we cannot offer anything we can possibly imagine. And with a kind-hearted attitude, you should, continuously make offerings of those.
어때 이기처 빈초파 제하던데 벨리라고 요리 나긴 초파체나 소노 그 손 하장 야청 보사 호르 까블레라 잡고 소소 셈리 약보까지 되는 대아피디아들이
And it's said to be a very, easy way of making offerings, and by just creating things, imagining things, and make offerings of those. And it's a way of, to create vast source of merit.
단다 Geshe 모자라가 단다 견직나를 제제제를 단다 지강라서 바제제제를 제시견이 리모치 송장도 다당아서 돔직마도 제제제 주메.
Yeah, so Shantideva goes into quite some detail here, explaining each and everything more elaborate, but I'm just going to abbreviate it.
어디르들라 단다 상루고니 안초파 부이나니 다 초파 켰다와지나 라나 요핀 초파제티 chopa kyatang wadre chopa lana me pin chopa ta lana yo pin chopa zidita chopa yaksho ta kyatang wani tanda tin chopa kyatang wadre
lana me pa
lana yo patre
lana yo pa. So and then there's another distinction between surpassable and unsurpassable offerings, and these offerings that we have covered now are surpassable offerings.
Lasa tani nipatal tanda yang salung ko ni choban puyache lana me pin chopa zeache shere.
And so next come the so-called unsurpassable offerings.
Tate ngapchinga dilen tanda yasi jawala karze chertan jawala so tanzi jawa nawlam chonza pasitita jitan jambe yang la so pa jita chamba ta jitan jambe yang so pa chancho se pa san tombo to so chopa kari piguyo na ke ante nanja sanje ta so le piguyen la adre
Ke
tanda yasi jawala korongia.
Oh yeah. So and then the verse 22nd reads, in the same way as Manjughosha and others have made offerings to the conquerors, similarly do I bestow gifts upon the Tathagatas, the protectors, their sons and all. So this is Shantideva saying that he's likewise like these high developed beings, just like Manjushri. He's doing or making offerings in the same way as them.
Jancho sepat so chopa kandi pigo sato paze oti so ujek jimbi parchan da satam ko parchan satam da zopa da sondi la so paro de chimba tin choze na ba cheni pigore.
So the way in which high bodhisattvas like Manjushri and so forth, they make offerings is that chimba chundu
Zopa sondi la so paro de chimba chigyo what the sort yap cho pigore tan choze na ba choze chundu pia tate la jan ko.
Okay, so they make offerings of the so-called six perfections of generosity, ethics, patience, and so forth.
What that lana me pin chopa ze go kan reti sanje chupon dia jeton la so ba chu mombo chi soyat muki semcha te so ge la chinchi ke nyamle chong wi che tere te chong ni ngand di chong song ze de ni chopa yo na me na tu ni ken woni te chan ro re
Gonna the geti
sanje chu mombo chi song ro chupon dia jeton
yeah do
te song go ya de karre semchen ge la parchen ge nyamle parche ke nyamle yo wi che tere
ha
Tet bugil nyamle ya chon ya piona ni chopa lana me pat chandore gubat and yungura.
Okay, so the Buddha gave 84,000 teachings, as it's always said, right? And what purpose were they for? They were for the practice or development of the six perfections. And if one makes an offering of those six perfections, then in that way it becomes an unsurpassable offering.
As was tini tanda plana me bin choban biton de tere tini di ngaso yala tombon choban bolata yala nipa yala tombon choban boa descend the joys
Yeah, so that out of these 7 limbs we covered now the first one of making offerings. So yeah, yeah.
So what is always a bit my conflict, there's a lot of offerings in monasteries that are not really used. No one needs them. He just said themselves, we offer things that sometimes we don't own and we offer them to someone that doesn't really need them. But it's using resources from the environment, Like when you see all the singly packed cookies and stuff, I'm always feeling bad about those offerings because we're kind of destroying the environment to make these offerings. So in my mind, there's a conflict. Maybe you can say something about it.
Big topic. Concade sigu sana Samsung ngatu like da biscuit la sopa la gompala pugure yenengane china desngana Geshe spanangche gompa di da gogyo sama re ine ngatu biscuit di gikki pakparo di ngane china koyukla nugare di shechang도 공 적지네 주파표야 약보요래 이내양 적셈발라 아주 기 그라파라서 거유라 느겨래 디스 뇨타요래 디
레레레 단다 인제레 다 레카 카르체나 초시니 약본로 차데나요 초시니 견차직 레레그로와 이나다 조피아 등아초 Sonam Savichete Sonsa Yapo, Nachugu Chena Hacha Yapo Sigri. Roa. Sonam Zayat Sosogutana, Yasijola, College Me Sonsa Tandatani Pite Orion, Soso Tesi Unite Sokatana, Tanachungoni Chena, Ya Chopa Casepina, Sosogutini, Sonam Gutsosani, Sendel Deki on the Sechamala, Yapanjo to Yapo, Tatso. Jiki lana me pachi ya sonza te ngibar te goya shegore ngibar te goya chala shire na chungo ni shina.
I mean, it's difficult. Many things we do there often, times both, like two sides, two aspects. But I mean, at least from the Buddhist point of view, it's very good thing to do, and I mean, in a sense, necessary also to make offerings, because it's a means of creating merit, and to have a good outcome in the future, also in future lives. And if we create merit by making offerings in this case, we'll have a happy result. But I mean, and then also you mentioned that Shantideva, I mean, he didn't have anything and just mentally created things. But it's from a Buddhist point of view, making offerings is very important.
But if we make offerings that at the same time harm many beings, like the animals, the environment, like how can this create merit? That's the thing I don't really understand.
Konti kogiyo mare ngazu chupapiwi kapsu di nyamdu di koyuk la yuki semchen sama mamu nugere di kohaku shindu tene di tabla tene kane chupapiwi la tene kane sunam sagare kase chupapiwi shindu Chupadi semchin dan koyuk nugeres hakogurwa.
Koyuk sandra te sorta te sanogre mato ta semchala noresena kanidizla go to conchowa pina semcha te shra noyo.
Is it so that sentient beings are getting harmed?
Look, we can see it from a different point, but for example, there's a lot of flower offerings, and I know flowers don't count as sentient beings, but they are living beings. So we are killing a flower just to that's an extreme view, but we are kind of killing a living being to offer it. Like the mental offerings, I totally agree to it. It's amazing. To offer our body, speech, and mind totally makes sense to me. But this materialistic offering where we are literally harming something, like this planet has limited resources. So producing lots of things that no one in the end needs just to offer them, in my mind, doesn't make so much sense.
Ja, Suzuki, das ist Sem ki lui zube chupapia kelengiore so lungang hi sum kele chupapia digido kelengiore ene ngat
depulate kelengo
ja ani di kaisa gamba lasso konsul gogio mare ngat metok segiore segido
metok to koyore zero
metok semsi maro nang chito ene ngat segre ani zambuling da metok changme pa yomaro 타이어로 세상아서 미적 툭 이네 그 갈코스 고요 말에
하고서 다 메토제한테 저거 비는 메토 졸라탄 게 두세워라 다 메토 졸라탄지나다 나주군이 지나다 자원이니 메토 졸라탄 하시오마 메토도 그 메토 베죠 탄사치를 탄한테 베나가서 자마자니 졸라탄 게 두세는 스큰 거 나안로마 되다 지버 메토도 그 Pecho tansa, guba yosa chil pecho tansari. Kala to guba yosa kala zati, kala chola tansonse yomara. Kalazana Kalachola Tare. Tinaj meto to control Yancho Pina Sosul Sonum Sakarin Kuri till the Deki on Samal Pimoti. Meto to Koropecho Tansa Tata Pecho Tan Sigri number chain the Chola Tansa in the killing one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different viewpoint, right? I mean, he says, you know, offering flowers is, I mean, from the Buddhist point of view, for a good reason, for a good purpose, to create merit, to make others happy, and, you know, and all of that. So from the Buddhist point of view, it's like, and Geshe says, well, if you eat food, is that a waste of food if you eat? So, I mean, it's just a way of thinking, but from the Buddhist point of view, it's not, you know, not spoiling flowers.
Ashom to so cheni on any Sajakaro. Tata Pecho Tansal and Royore Mato Cholandro Matino, Meto Tian, Misium Katsuichetia, Lata Sem Chanda, Mata Samal Dekion, Yapochi Resamnia Pigora. Did Sama Yapochi and Tongo Tata, Corpecho and Rosari.
I mean, Geshe's point of view, you know, we were doing it for a good reason, you know, making these flower offerings, you know, with a good motivation, you know, and hoping for good outcomes and so forth. It's like, you know, and it's the same as, it's for a good reason, and it's the same, it's like cutting whatever wheat or, you know, grains to, you know, to make food or whatever, to eat, to be able to eat something. It's also for a good reason. So you can't say it's spoiling or flowers or what.
Jagar the picture shooting the Jagar Meto Concho Padero, Corso, Anti Tonzere, Panjoke, Yomba, Yonkuazari, and in Chopa and Rogo, Sari Jagan Resinati, as a Popanalta Jaka Clixon, Tijimombotan, Angamat, Yosamarino, Piat. In I Trolando Rim, some.
And it's not wasting flowers. I mean, like you see also in India, and Tibetan custom is similar to Indian custom that way, that, you know, lots of flowers are being, you know, offered and this and that, and others then have, you know, also kind of like income and make business out of it.
Yeah, but when you look into it, how they grow the flowers for it, with how many pesticides and stuff, there's always like a circle, and Buddhism teaches us to think about this stuff as well. So when we think about compassion and merit in the relation to wisdom, I'm not sure if that's like contradicting or not.
I mean,
that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah, it's a long discussion, right? Yeah. Vast topic.
I have a questions on that, because what Rika was saying, I remember reading in one sutra, I cannot remember the title of the sutra, but in the sutra said, if we offer flower in this lifetime, in our future lifetime, when we take rebirth in our next lifetime, we will have perfect features and looks, have ears, eyes, in perfect feature. If we offer the Buddha with flowers in this lifetime, but I cannot remember the name of the sutra, but it's mentioned in the sutra.
Proseguirusena con donandola dis lobare di tibatang yore sangela chupa kasa meto pubaina dene ngatsu mitse chimala ngatsu dongpa zevo ra yore ine dongpa kim tseng dengyo mare
alle tendi jekiel ndore vezere atata musi kat tendi she jaya aju ayata ta kanta sonam chimbo sakayore zevorenga Meto Tangaru Yana Shagora. Matul Meto the Yapoching Tongo. Yapoching Tongo so the Yapot Yapina Sonam Chimbo Sakarezor. Mato Natsoya Dukan Toyachi Yapina Chobachakama. Meto Tangaru so Yapoching Tongo say Yapot control Yapina, Teletini Sona Sakarez. Tejimala Zunzipata, Panjo Chiri Yapo, the Tenjamada Gikil and Roger Kiwachama. Yoker some.
Yeah, Geshe just confirms that, you know, we usually consider flowers as something good and beautiful, you know, and if we make this as an offering to the Buddhas, it's creating a lot of merit, and that will have, you know, the results of, you know, being beautiful and, you know, in the future having good resources.
Yeah, I remember I read this in the sutra.
Yeah, and in Doki Zen, so Doki Zen, di Nangla Tia, di Chupa Sangila, Chupa Metok.
Sense in a currency.
Ming, do, Ming. Like Shira Mingpo, Doki Ming Ra.
Yes. Yes, in one of the sutra, but I can check with it's very difficult for me to do I learned how to do the mandala offering, but I cannot remember so well. My memory is bad. I cannot remember this Rinpoche, that Rinpoche, and then I have to do so many Rinpoche. I cannot remember. So what I do is when I, for example, I go to the shopping mall, utilize the gold, the diamonds, everything in this nice things, the environment, I offer to the triple gems. Then I will visualize that my father already passed away, my mom's still around, and I lead all the other sentient beings to do this beautiful offering to the triple gems. Is that right? I just
Conseguido mente, non la mente più. Ire da kare kava pugere rinpoche se doa.
Stanno parlando di come migliorare praticamente la propria vita, la propria morale, e quindi qua oggi stanno parlando della generosità, la gratitudine, la generosità come attitudine.
Cioè, il discorso di vita.
Infatti, questi sono insegnamenti di vita.
Suzuki Semla, da Kuncho Sumla Pugure, Mene Pibi Capsula, Ani Konki Pala, Tong Sasong, in Amada Tanadu, Ani Amada Semchin Sama Yanda, Yamdu, Chupa Pugure, Mene Picasso, Tata reduce.
Yimbaro. Tadin Chikorim, Choga Picasso, Tasso, Yapochin, Ponsona, Tea Pidina, Samlotani. So Yapo, so Yapo Manton, Pia Pumaro. So Yapon Pina, so Pranketian, so Yin, Corla, so Simcha, Tamcha, Yam de Yapigos, the Pia, the Chala Yapo, the Kazan Tonatanda, Gesijola, last Pia Chopatro, Yikichu Chopa. Yari Yasi the Samloyatan in Pinam, Record Mantra, the Atara, Yikichu Chopa. Kun Shan Zabuli Koropi Yungora, Zabuli yesterday, Zabuli Koropi was also a Sherlin Bobolon, Zavala, Chanja Manis in its own Piungos. Chitanita Gatso Girkichalasi Chamaroa. Samlotani Pion Sons at his own Saperese.
You know, Rimo, c'est pour ça qu'il y a maintenant young digere. He says, of course, it's good to do it like this. It's like Shantideva was the last type of offerings, these mentally created offerings, and then doing the mandala offering is offering the whole universe, and then you can imagine all sorts of things, whatever you have in mind, and then it's perfectly okay to do it like this, even if you don't remember all these Rinpoches wherever they are.
Even like leading the ones that pass away or death, comic debtors, and all my relatives and all the other sentient beings that not around, and all sentient beings and my family member, everybody to do the offering.
Ani koya di pama kasa pada dong sa pare ani kasa semtin sui na yang.
Punye nyam de randa zu kiri semja tamchang ya puyo samche ani puza de sanji changse se pala sopa kase mambo chi tentona ani puya ge ziti semle so kanze je kase chenje chi ya pitona kase Yachembo Trena, Yachembo Sosat, Titaki Sheja, Tagitro.
Yeah, I mean, by doing, you can imagine, all the people that you mentioned, basically all sentient beings, and, and then, like I should also mentioned earlier, you can imagine all these countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and so forth, and then making all these countless, numeral offerings, and the more merits being you create by doing that this way. Yes, it's good.
Thank you.
Nice. Tani? When you chant about the man Rojaka. Oh, chant about the Roshara. Tani but the chant about the other chant out and Nagan so chance around retail, leading the Geshe Mojola Nakgoni chance out the league when chance our Nishi and Jandu.
So, anyway, and then the next of these 7 branches is this branch of prostrations. And there here, Shantideva divides that into 2. There are the physical or prostration with the body, and then the verbal prostrations.
Tangak Goni Chansawazia, the Karla Orizinata, Sangi Yundin the Solia, Topacho, Jatnimbo Goni, Topa Kasi Jotona, Tele Nakgoni Chansawaze, or Nasona Gindomban de Ate, so Manchesa non Topari, Topa to Sotoni, Tindomban de Ate, to Nakgoni Chopandore.
And yeah, so these verbal prostrations are when we recite praises to the Buddha or praises to the three jewels.
And in all like Topa Toya Yala Jamsota, Toyan de Nyambi Jachi goes in door. That's also with Janimbo Katsu Toatani, Sangi Yonde Casonti Yonde La Sopa Katsi Jotona Jot, and it's the Nyambo Chizotona, not going in Chopate Tere. Sangi cut on Sonda Tiglas, Yonde the Toya Katsi. Tatangatsu Katikuzo Gonata Komar, Tatani Sangila Topas and Ota, Jitanjamian La Topas and Otan Mombo Yorwa, Topagijon Chumo, Toya, not Kimbo Yakurna, thing of going to Topatri.
I mean, there are various praises we can find, or prayers, you know, in prayer to Manjushri and to Shakyamuni, of course. And if we read these prayers or recite these verses, you know, praising the qualities of their body, speech, and mind, then that's a verbal prostration.
That's what any Nakagoni, Likugoni, Chansawatala, Tanda Jongonola, Conchosona Chansawata, Chansosem Kajala Chansawatan, Kelo Sola Chansawa, some Resha. Conchosum, Tombo Conchosum la Chansawatresha. Tatombo Conchosum the Jatandrish.
And then we have the physical prostration, the first, again divided into three. The first one is towards the three jewels.
Conchosona Chansazina Kariziti, Conchosona Sanagisha, Sangi Conchota, Chu Conchota, Genda Conchotare, Tanji Pa, Sangi, Tachuta, Gendangapa, Nanki Tat by Kappa Momochi Sam Lotangre.
And here we can imagine, you know, the three jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, like of vast, in vast numbers, you know, filling the whole sky.
Tani soso chansati soso lo polisti mungi o mar listik tini chansa o te samlo tang kapsa soso yang chanlin dipa mombo chi kanyam de ya chansa wi yo samba samlo tatendo chang de kanji changni ki ze ondi tul ka chang da nyam ba chi chang tsinge te yang shu mombo chi ngat soso te shu mombo chi yo sambi te sha bi goni nam yang ga chatsi atre.
And then ourselves, when we do the physical prostration, then again we can, you know, imagine ourselves as high in number as all the atoms there are in the world. So in countless numbers.
Tani ta conchosam la chansa wata ni pa chanchop sem gerja la chansa wa ya chi ore chanchop sem gerja ta kar chakore zena maso lhak tan kapar tan chuten dan pecha la so pa tso tel chanchop sem gerja ze ore chanchop sem kesa gerja ro se yore
Kusum tukye.
Kusum tukata ngoni tamare
Yeah. And then we have the second form of physical prostration that's towards representations of Jamshi Semki Ten. The basis of bodhicitta. What that is referring to is basically representations of the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. You have Buddha statues representing Buddha's body, and then texts for his speech, and then the stupas representing the enlightened mind. And so,
Lasso tani tel chansa tonda chibare ta tanji te mombo chi yo pa savlo tani tani so li chansa ta ki ta chibare.
So again we have these representations of the Buddha's or enlightened body, speech, and mind. And then again, same as before, we imagine ourselves, in countless forms, making these the prostrations to these representations.
Tani sambata Carlo Lasso pala chansa wa zia chirum kambo to lopon da terji zia kambo to lopon zia ta so lama ta sore ani terji wa zia tanji nyamli cheni dro de ni to lawore nyamli ba tanji samra da gomra da tanji janin dro de ni ndo wa ta terji wa ta so la ke chansa wa zia Gehse chimo jala sore te chansa ta de chi ba ingire.
And then the third form of physical prostration we can make in front of the Kempos and Lupans, the Kempos, the learned ones, the acharyas, and those and the practitioners, those doing retreats and so forth.
So tani tanda yala den zia tsagan yala tombo choban po ta yala ni ba changsa wa ni ro ore ta chingoni chukem lenge chingoni tena na chi yansen rawo Tanji Ching Tongo Yokiri, Nanchu Killing Kachikujina, Nasim Gujik Chavala, so Payapos, Sim Samas, Sim Yapochar.
I mean, Chumi Kimi
Kemelinka Chinsan, Kensa Chintongora, that the Chandru Chinsi Karchedina, the Chiachi Pideni Karchina, Samgrava. You know, Chungunishina, that's what she was touching with Segure.
Yeah. So yeah, now we've covered the first two of these 7 branches, making the offerings and prostrations. And if someone, has nothing really to do with the Dharma or any religious practices, they would probably rather find it a bit odd. Why would I make these offerings or prostrate to certain images or beings or whatnot? But as a Dharma practitioner, is considered to be a very precious, holy practice, as it were.
Also, Tani, Tatiparutal, Jamdro Nyon, Jamdro.
And then the text follows with a little bit on refuge.
Jamdro Zenakarze was the Naso Jamdro Cheziat, and Abki Jamdro Korongo, the Reva Jala Shigore.
So refuge, taking refuge has to do with placing hope in someone.
So now that Jandal Kangi on the Soso Yiche such Taniba such Reva Jawore.
So yeah, like as in the same way as if we when we face difficulties, then we entrust ourselves to someone we believe in. Yeah.
So the Natso Kangi Karachevi or is it Natsum Tandan Koral and Cordego Natsol Yoya Kangi to Koi Dingartre.
Now the difficulty that we are facing is that we are bound in samsara, stuck in samsara.
Tankoi Dinger. The job to Sangaso Yiche Sata Karizena Conchosa Sanji Concho Concho Genda some Conchosum de Langason Koi Dingalikyo Nipati Yopangaso Yiche.
And we, as Buddhist practitioners, we believe that Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha jewel, that those can protect us from the suffering, in samsara.
Sonta, not so Navja Gendel, Camdroche, Zitingason Koi Dingarli Tarvicheta. Sanjeta Chuta Genda some la Yicheni, that's all the tablam the Yoris and that's all the Reva Japi, Samba Tapa and Reva Japal, Jamdro Laore.
Yeah, so taking refuge means that we entrust ourselves to the 3 jewels to protect us and free us from the suffering in samsara.
And in all Carasonze, Chacho Nimbunchiki was Sanjena like Yasuches and Nangaros. So
as it says in verse 26, I seek refuge in all the Buddhas until I possess the essence of enlightenment.
Tani Chutan Soki Chonam Chutan Chancho Serpai Sopa Laya Sola Terjikasan Chesita, then Sanjela Tendinga Sanjima to Pertani Sanjela Reva Japamaza, Chutan Chancho Serpi Sok Genda Lion, Takaranda. Naro Yapochin Koalitawa, Sanji Vicheta, at Sanji Mason Perta, Sanji da Chuta Genda some Reva Javians, Reva Java Taron, Jamdro Laore, Nambi Nang Jamdro Zet.
And then it goes on to say, likewise, I seek refuge in the Dharma and in the assembly of Bodhisattvas. So, yeah, this is saying that, we wholeheartedly, take refuge in the 3 jewels until, we have reached full enlightenment and are freed from samsara and are fully enlightened Buddhas.
Teninga so nabjin number there, not so number Sanji Paze, number Sanji Payimazia, Jamdrongoni Caberche de Gore. Not so Sanji and Chutan Genda Samla Tenji Koali Capi Nipa Yopa, Tenji killing Kechila, number they were take him Malina, number Mari, Champata number there, Jamdrongoni, the Chesa, Nenga Cheshu.
So taking refuge, the practice of going for refuge, taking refuge in the 3 jewels, that's what, makes one a Buddhist or not. If one accepts, that has trust in the 3 jewels, that the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha can protect us from the suffering of samsara, and then wholeheartedly takes refuge in them, then one is considered a Buddhist. But if one doesn't have that belief, then then one isn't considered a Buddhist.
What it Koso Tele Yiche Machena, non you young dena, Tele Nambaze, Mari, non you Kepa Karina Shinkechi Yenaya, Sanjay Natson Quali Capto, Marichu, Natson Quali Capta, Gendala, the Capini Payo Marze, the Kemelin Kechi in Chichella, that they Natso Chulukichani, no better Chakayo Mari.
Yeah. And I mean, someone might be a great scholar, a great expert on the Buddhist teachings, they might know so much. But if that person really doesn't have that trust and faith in the 3 jewels, and ability to help us to get out of samsara and achieve an enlightenment, then that person, however great their knowledge is, isn't considered a Buddhist.
Last one.
But
No,
if the person by name as a Buddhist taking refuge, but in my thinking, besides taking refuge, Buddhist has to be accountable for what your actions, the karma, body, speech, and mind. So we have to purify and responsible for what we do, and not Buddha just rely on Buddha and to protect us. But we have to be accountable for our actions. That is my understanding of as a Buddhist.
Konki kudenla nang pa yin gen de tsola kenchuk sum la kyapsu dogu ma se kare kichimbo yang yu sera susurangi migiwele me paso ra tikpata gewa ra sagura di susuki chupa kandido mindu di susurang genkuro di dagas kenchuk sumla rewagya Dangyo marwa. Nang pa inge den susu rangi leka di sab chegura.
Re. Yina dandangi jia de karze. Namba yima inge sansam ro chi tasa chi yoro. Te kom choksam kyamni yang da kelen ke chi tni chi gore ze. Khenga so kyap to rin ko ali nga so kyap to ri sa te kelen gore mung. Kyap zea te yang ngo sang gore. Kyap zea te ke kyap to ti karze na. Kon choksam la nga chong ko ali kyap thamla to bi ni ba te yore. Lam the Tama, member tau the Quacha deor, never tau the Naso Chadio. Sonsa Kungaso Latilia Zoki on Nipaja, Nibayore Mato, Naso Shikia Goringaso, Membal Jobi Nibayona, Menganam Kuni Mandro and Naso Nasali Chakamarwa. Data Chibari, so Shikia Goa Yimbari. So Yamle Apomach and Sangi Zawani Capto Mar, Nika Gori, Yimbari.
But yeah, of course, he says he completely agrees what we say. We need both. You know, I mean, if we don't do the practice, then that's not enough. Then the three jewels don't have the ability to help us, you know, to protect us and whatnot. That definitely goes together. It's like, you know, we can't just, imagine a doctor when we are sick, but if you don't go to see him, then there's no benefit. So same. But he was just distinguishing, like, you know, the demarcation. So that. For to be Buddhist, one necessarily needs to have that faith in the three jewels, but it comes with the practice, of course. Yeah.
That's huh?
So I'm overall wondering who this book, this text is written for, because it says the way of a Bodhisattva. And I feel I'm far away from being a Bodhisattva. So who is it actually relevant for? When I look at this, like beginning of the book now, it sounds like you have to be a Buddhist, you have to have this faith already, that this book is relevant. Is it like this? Is it for beginners? Is it only when you're at the Bodhisattva level? I'm a bit confused.
Janchu sempa ra le tamboa yenge la yang yore yang mena satopo janchu sempa satopo let gore di sula kichibore
tas koroti no la sha karanya bajala pangre sin gongolio kwes kitani jang chet tsamba mares ngangaru chet tsamba yes ngaru giwa kwat yana karanya bajala ya pamba segreziti ta janchu semlo lobjon chendo kundo pa yon keta chik ani tandriga chanchasela gapocheni sandrich tanata ya toba karam tombo sarlewa tandrila ta shra gogo yona menata ta ke ngasolsa nga sapart le tombo ngasonrechi na pe yapoyor chanchase ke masan ke tandri ke na kombaso chetona dalteni yapoyor sonda te ngaso le tombo wa cheti yenzen ngor te ya karam zig partan rogor
like in the beginning it says that, you know, I mean, that Shantideva says, you know, again, out of his humility, Geshe mentioned the other day, that he says he mainly wrote the text for his own benefit to, you know, increase his virtue and whatnot, or his merit. But then he also says at the same time that those of equal or same merit or equal fortune, for them, you know, there might be some benefit in the text, but Geshe says we don't have to think, or we don't have to be, you know, high-level Bodhisattva. You know, if you're a beginner, then that will be very beneficial for us.
But we are not at the same level of merits than Shantideva was, even if he's really humble, we are like far away from his level because he can write a book like this.
Yeah. Ngats Gehse Shiwala da nyamba yomarwa.
Mar teta go mar.
Kelwa nyamba yungen detsola.
Gawa nyamba zia kokab yonke gawa zetia.
So equal fortune means who have the same opportunity, as it were, to study or to learn about these things.
One is Chena Nachu de Momboji opinon, the Cote Poyor. There's a mona bit in trouble mind, but Cote is the Wataniti, Keshat Sopa, Kenzoko Kejal Zonra Cote Poshushi on the Litombo, the Partale Yapoyo Sarisang.
Geshe thinks that it's particularly good for beneficial for beginners because it's easy, written in an easy, comprehensible way. I mean, if you look at the great texts, you don't really understand very much. It's very complicated. This is pretty easy and straightforward compared to other texts. Yeah.
The 5 theses.
No, just like when we are going to, especially what we talked about today, it sounds a bit like these are the prerequisites. We have to be at this point already to study this book.
No. It's leading us there. That's the deal, yeah. Letambo, that is Santo Buddha Lepo.
Gomar. That's all Yashotri.
The best text for us.
Nanchunyavlin that they love Jochin Indian and Galapchat Sumoni or Lopat Zopili Volma. How sorry.
Zupili, particularly the patience chapter is really good advice. We will come later.
Last, I need to try on.
Are there any questions of those people watching online?
So I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. So I hear many times say, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So I hear many times that the Buddha's teaching, we don't have to believe, but we can verify for ourselves, right? This is something people say many times. But I mean, with some things, I find it possible. Like, for instance, how to deal with afflictions or develop compassion and look at self-grasping ignorance. Like these things, I find they're very, I can really see them and apply them to my life. But with teachings like, reincarnation and this cyclic, so when it becomes like this, I find it very difficult because I don't know how to verify it for myself. And so it becomes hard for me to follow everything that builds on top of that. So I don't know, I would just like some comment on this.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Conseguiru sama nangchun namgunangsinga zu kase tusurang takchichigro dagasichichigmaro takchichig. Ani conseguiru sama da Suzuki sem duala di nyomo me pazoyala ra di la sopa taptibore kelenya de taptibore ina yang kiwa ngachi da me ra di korwa ra di dan dewe ki sunchilanina da ichi desu kalikawyore
tagare kiwa ngapchil kalikapo yota yo le jemre tsol ngatsol pashenki goni shenaya te yore zeni tata national yore zeni mashe jawre ngatso chukelen kejina yinchi mechi kelen gre mangata matsamal yichya chukelen mele serchi shena te da yinsari samsangu shegwa te kiwa ngapchil kalikapo chakayore
Suyina yang.
No, Selina, the Gashi za yo. Pena control margina semba ki po chakarezia the misindchilishina ran chogurwa. Chogureta. Kiwang up chiorezia the messagishina ran chogoyoma. Ko toyan the chiomare, de poxabo chishia yomar. Ta mancheza chulina ni mashe yoretani, chikiwanga chitany mombo legore, or the soul tennis shegore. Yena yang Ginkasa can you chichi, Seribayan, and the kiwang up chimeba, so you need to talk yomar, the hakogore. Kiwang up to Mepa Dramato, Mazet, and the Ticol, Shuchi Serupag, the Sonachu Najum Ching do, and then got the sorting door. Chichena Kiwang up to your Sarisa. Coso Mepa dropped to your Mari. A lepa part of continent, Leka Sama, Menches, now she's at a lepa Zenita, Tino Saula Tangorita, Nepa, Yavolo Pat, Sachetama to on the Casa Caniki, Tritam Korea Chujimba, what did you on the Tanda? Corongo Sonaj, Ringazo. sagil shena khelen thoya ji danga su ji thoya yo mari la te cha de yo mari kya ngap chi korta su yana ya kali ka po shu chi cha de ore mari yo mari sa ni tel ton cho che sa ni cha yo mari no tere
Yeah, I mean, Geshe is confirming what you said. You know, like when it's about afflictions, you know, or like eliminating anger, for example, and that makes one feel, you know, more at ease and so forth. That's something, you know, people generally will, you know, easily relate to and be able to understand. But then when it's about, you know, past and future lives, it's a different matter. But I mean, even for practitioners, it's often not so easy to relate or to accept or to believe it all. But then also, Geshe was sharing earlier about the, you know, the scientists, that, you know, they investigate, you know, and they usually say the mind is kind of like a function of the brain and this and that. But then they have done already now at least some form of research, you know, with people who the doctors have said they have passed away, are clinically dead, but nevertheless, it seems there's, but still their body, the body doesn't decompose, and it seems that there's a subtle form of consciousness still within the body, and that's what the Tibetans call tukdam. Anyway, and even the scientists now, they can't really explain what's going on. You know, normally for someone who's clinically dead, whose heart has stopped, the body should, you know, decompose, especially when it's like boiling hot outside. But some, you know, practitioners are able to stay in this kind of tukdam state for, you know, weeks or days or what. And so even so that at least some scientists, I guess, they can't really definitively say, well, no, because there is no past and future lives. But I mean, it's something very tricky. I mean, it's not so obvious, not clear. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, just very quickly. So if I follow the Buddhist teachings that I understand and can verify, but not the other ones, does that make me a bad Buddhist?
Yeah, no, Gehse ra. The kasa nangchu nangne detsen kashi kilen lilawayo taptibo. Detsen kashi tanda kilengyo mare, tupyo mare. Dila tene nangpa dukcharbe.
Natso number corona ngonjir ziyada kokir ziyada shimda kokir ziyada rigsam chiyo sonta ngonjir ziyada natso tsama kilin to ate chonze kokir ziyada tezi kali kapo da yana tasina rigba ga sawlo dana parchi yin sari shimda kokir ziyada lejun je kurmo bo chite sheni zani ni rache togo ma sanje ga tindri go yore zeondi ta chi tindri teni natso yeche chi among tindri rigsam yore namje.
I mean, within Geshe says that within Buddhism, there you know, parts of the teachings that are pretty clear and obvious, and then there are other parts of the teachings that are hidden, or slightly hidden, which are more difficult to get the idea of. And then there are those who are things or teachings, part of the teachings that are extremely hidden, and that's, you know, these are things that only Buddha can know. So. 아니 그 낭파 독자레 람나 되게 독자 이나미나 똑바서 이도
알레 넘바즈야
그래서 일단 기와 같이 뭐 좀 말해 낭추 다 이치 유다요 this 도나요 이다요
도나지
근데 가서 기와 같이 유다메다 야차가 탐파 다가랑레 켈레 칼레 가보도 딜라테네 고낭파 독자레
또 말 가자와지니 말 하장께 침못세 오래 베티 나프교 체와가 미트가 토파 노파 요멜리아파 타닝오니 촌네닐 모마탄 토나 켈리아타 나키 남비 약쇼트 츠리오 그나시 단다키 아마치 요메 토파자데 오라 토파자데 야포츠리오 고 게다니 키앙아치 켈렌데인기테 용란지리타 노파 요멜리아파 타니 소소 임바 하코소나 켈레 마임바 하코소나 마임바 타체 임마 하마코나테 요 마리즈니 타체 데아테 두차스그레 마토 데니바티 요레즈니 켈랭과요 마 Takiangachi yomi hamakona yomariza hambasabuchina duchasegremato. Kori tobazana tata.
But Geshe said that doesn't mean that you're a bad Buddhist if you can't accept past and future lives, for example. It's rather good. Geshe says, you know, in Buddhism, like you also mentioned, I think before, it's always good. You know, we're always encouraged to investigate, and we should only accept that what we, you know, have investigated, analyzed, and then which makes sense for us, and then that's, you know, what we can accept for us if we want to. And if we, not clear, if we still have doubts, then, we can investigate further or leave it for the time being. But so in that case, that's good what you're doing. But Geshe says, if we can't understand something and then just deny it, it doesn't exist or something, that's not good. But it's good to stay open and keep on investigating, but just accept what you can. But that's good what you're doing.
Konsan chokati na songre so hama ko ni tonda chi la kepache because tumje kare na tesakre samni savlo tani kepache shos chichina yisigre chichina misigre tel savlo tani kepache shos tombo goni rezini tache go marezini tache go karina chonsakre samni tache cheta yasho resum.
Also, His Holiness Dalai Lama usually says that he encourages people to investigate either way. Or that's probably, that might be this and this, or this might not be that and that. But to right away say, yeah, this is it. And then not just not to think any further, or just, right away deny something that one doesn't believe in or whatever. So that's not good. But yeah, to keep on investigating is a very good thing.
That's Nijagoda.
So then we stop here for today. See you Friday.
Tuche.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your teaching.